Welcome to part 5 of the Black J Journal channel introductory lecture. My name is Khalifa Abdul Khalik. I am an African American who's been living and teaching here in the Far East for over 20 years now. I'd like to point out to you guys the link at the bottom. That is the link to my website, Black J Journal. On this website, I get more detailed information of blacks in ancient and modern Asia. Okay, thank you all for joining me now, and let's continue on with our talk. Like I said, Asia presents a lot of parallels, many parallels, where that that just underline the thing that highlights us as a people. It wasn't just us. No, it wasn't just us. We wasn't the only people who were forced to take other people's names, forced to speak other people's languages, forced to have them take over our territory. The Japanese did it. And white people, then Caucasians, Europeans, they did not just do that to you. They did it to many. Trust me, they did it to many others. Let me give you an example of that. Go get a map and look up Philippines, the country called the Philippines. It's in Southeast Asia. I'll give you time to Google that, the Philippines. It's a country in Southeast Asia. Why am I bringing that up? Why am I talking about that? I'll tell you why, okay? The Philippines wasn't always called the Philippines. That is not, that's the name that that country being recognized as right now, today. But that is not the original name of that country. What happened was the King of Spain, when he sent his croonies, his military men, his conquerors, and his missionaries out, they went to the country called the Philippines. Okay, they named that country after their king. The king was called King Philip II of Spain. King Philip II of Spain. So then, when they went to that country, they named all those people Philip, because that's the name of their king. Philip, Philippines. They call all these people Filipinos after King Philip. Now, y'all, let's be serious now. Okay, come on. None of those people is related to that damn King Philip in Spain. None of them are. So why the hell they taking on this man's name? That's the most arrogant, egocentric, self-interest jerk I'm trying not to swear, that you can think of. Chauvinistic asshole. Name all these people after King Philip. And none of these people are related to this man. None of these people were born in Europe. None of those people in the Philippines. None of those people were born in Spain. Yet these people are called Filipinos after their king, after the name of their king, King Philip II. Just like many of you who today, right now, today, have these English names. Most African Americans have English names. Their last name are English, named after the slave master, the people who abuse you. So you naming your kids, you passing that name down to your kids. A person who abused your ancestor, who raped your ancestor, who tortured your ancestor, and now you naming your child after that person. Think about that. Think about how that's going to affect that child's psychology. Think about all the problems you have in your neighborhood right now, with drugs, with high school dropout, with teenage pregnancy, with violence, with crime. And look at what you named that person after. A person who what? Abused you, committed crimes against you, tortured you, right? Everything that they're doing to themselves, they name after a person who did that to them. You think a person's name is not going to affect them psychologically? I'm going to get into that. Okay, just stay tuned. I'm going to talk about that more in depth about how your name messes up your mind. especially when you name after the person who abused the living crap out of you. But we'll talk about that later, like I said. Okay, I'd like to point out to you this one story that I think many of you will find quite interesting because I sure as hell did. Can you believe the Marvel Comics movie Black Panther, starring Chadwick Boseman and directed by Ryan Coogler? Okay, when that movie actually came out, it was a big hit all over the world. Okay, it made millions. It became a very popular movie with the African American community, but it also was very popular. It was well received by many African countries. When it was premiered in South Africa, when it was premiered in Ghana, when it was premiered in Kenya, it was well received by the audience in those countries. It also was well received by many audiences all over the world. Many people all over the world took to that movie. They felt it was a great movie. And I thought it was a great one too. Okay. But one thing that stood out concerning that movie was the fact that when that movie premiered in America and a lot of African Americans went to see that movie, they were very inspired by it. You know, they felt it was a really good movie. A lot of them were moved by this movie. But can you believe after many African Americans saw this movie, a lot of African Americans actually tried to book a ticket, a flight ticket, a plane ticket to the country of Wakanda. Now, you know, if you've seen the movie Black Panther, that is the country where Black Panther is from. He's the king of that country, that African country called Wakanda. So when a lot of African Americans saw this movie Black Panther, a lot of them wanted to go to Wakanda in Africa. A lot of African Americans actually tried to book a ticket, try to book a plane flight to the country of Wakanda. Not knowing that Wakanda is a fictitious country. There is no country in Africa called Wakanda. It's made up. It's a myth. There's no country in Africa called Wakanda. Yet a lot of African Americans try to book a ticket to go to Wakanda, not knowing that's a made up name. Not knowing that's a created name. That's a fictitious country. There's no country in Africa called Wakanda. Now that just shows you the level of understanding, the level of knowledge, the amount of information African Americans have about Africa. A lot of them actually tried to book a ticket to Wakanda, not knowing there is no country in Africa called Wakanda. See, now this is why we need Afrocentric studies. These are grown people, grown adults, grown men and women trying to book a ticket to Wakanda, not knowing there is no country in Africa called Wakanda. This shows the level of understanding that we have about our own people, our own culture, our own continent, the continent of Africa. This shows how much we understand about that. This shows how much we know about that. This shows how informed we are about Africa. You can make up any name. See, now that just shows anybody can just come up with any name about some country in Africa, and many African Americans would not know the difference. They wouldn't know the difference because their level of understanding about Africa, how much they know about Africa, they won't be able to tell if this person is telling a lie or telling the truth. They won't be able to tell if what this person is saying is fact or fiction. A lot of parts of that movie, they couldn't tell. They did not know what was fact and what was fiction because they know very little about Africa anyway. Okay? Can you guys believe? Okay. I'm gonna calm down now. I'm calm now. I'm gonna go slow. I'm not gonna get too excited about this. I'm gonna maintain my sanity. But let's go on, y'all. Okay? Let's go on, you all. Okay. Can you believe also the average African American? I'm gonna go slow. I want to state this slowly. Can you believe the average African American cannot name 10 African countries? I'm going to say that again. The average African American cannot name 10 African countries. And so, I know you know who you are, who's listening to this lecture. you know you cannot name 10 African countries. Of course, there's some of you who can, but many of you cannot. It's again, it's not your fault. It's because you were educated in a system where Africa is not important. Where Africa has no meaning, no significance to you. It has no impact on your life. As an African American, it does have an impact on your life. It has a huge impact on your life. Yeah, the average African American cannot name 10 African countries. So, let's look at this now. That whole phenomenon with the Black Panther movie. So they come up with this made up name, Wakanda. And since the average African American cannot name 10 African countries anyway, they wouldn't know if Wakanda is fact or fiction. They wouldn't know the difference. They wouldn't know that's a made up name because they can't name 10 African countries anyway. So that's why you find these grown adults, these grown people, these grown men and women booking a plane, trying to book a flight ticket to a country that do not exist. Because they can't name 10 African countries anyway. They was raised up in a system where Africa is not important. It has a very minimal position in the education system. It's insignificant. That's the word I'm looking for. It's viewed as insignificant. You can go on throughout your life. You can go your life, your daily life, and not have to know anything about Africa. In America, yeah, you can do that, but what do you call yourself? You call your racial identity is African American. Yet the African part is completely absent in your life. You are no different than when Malcolm X put the X at the end of his name to signify the lost African name that was lost during slavery. It's still the same. You lost the name, but you've also lost the knowledge. You have no awareness of Africa whatsoever. Oh man, I'm at a loss of words. I'll try to go slow here so I don't get tongue tied. But yeah, these people, a lot of African Americans, Africa has no significance in their life. It's not important to them. That's why so many of them, a lot of them, did not know Wakanda is a made up country. There's no place in Africa called Wakanda. Because Africa, in their daily life, in their education system, they had no introduction to Africa anyway. And that's really sad, okay? It is. It's really sad that the average African American cannot name 10 African countries. That's really sad. And we call ourselves African Americans. Yet the African part of our awareness is non-existent. It's not there. It doesn't exist with us. That's really sad. We need to know, that's what I'm trying to get at here, is we need Afrocentric studies because there's so much information which we as Black people, as a group, are not aware of. As a group, as a people in general, our self-awareness is non-existent. It's minimal at best. Can you believe, okay, we have the African American, we have our own flag, okay? You know, the red, black, and green flag that's supposed to symbolize the African American people here in America. What a lot of people are not aware of, okay, with that flag, is that a lot of people around the world, a lot of Africans, a lot of people from the African diaspora, Africans, Black people in Jamaica, Black people in Haiti, Black people in Brazil. A lot of these people look up to us. They look up to us as being the most progressive Black people on the face of the earth right now. A lot of people look to us for leadership. A lot of people look to us for guidance. A lot of people look to us as the ones who's going to pave the way for all Black people. That's why it's very crucial that you have some kind of awareness of yourself as an African.